So my name is Kelsey Hall, and I'm doing my presentation on Native American burial grounds. And I kind of just wanted to focus on the negatives of this and what we can do to preserve these areas and respect them more. And so I kind of wanted to talk about the destruction and invasion of these areas because they're very sought out by many people just to obtain artifacts. And what I have in the background is a burial ground in Brimley, Michigan. And I kind of just wanted to have this in the background so we can visualize what these burial grounds look like because they are different than any graveyard that we typically are using for our culture to set people to rest, and that we have to approach it differently because it is different. And so, for background, just like everyone else in this class, I came to the class not knowing too much because curriculums are very limited and they don't cover much on Native Americans or their culture. And especially when this was their land, we are not acknowledging them and we kind of just push them to the back burner. So, just like many, I kind of came to class only knowing the story about Pocahontas, Sacagawea, there's Native American reservations. But one thing that I did know was a story that my boyfriend told me because he's actually a Native American and he's a member of the Sault Ste. Marie tribe of Chippewa Indians. And so his hometown is Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, which is in the Upper Peninsula. And he told me a story about this old sled hill that's actually on the right. And him and his friends used to go sledding on it. And eventually in 2004, it was gated in, and it was because they discovered it was a Native American burial ground. So it kind of just sparked this whole idea in my head to do my presentation on this because I wanted to know, when people discover these areas, how are they treating them? Because in a community where there were many Native Americans, it was respected. But I was sure that it wasn't like that for many areas, which I was correct. And so destruction occurs very often, and it can be occurring due to accidental reasons, people excavating, building up cities, or it could just be on purpose. People trying to seek out information on the area, which would be an archaeologist, or just curious people, or people who are trying to obtain artifacts to sell or just to have. And all of these in which are just damaging to the area. And so the importance really of this is just to know that by touching these areas, by damaging anything, even if it's accidental, purposeful, or by an archaeologist, it is just completely not respectful. And I wanted to mention this quote that caretaking of the dead is a sacred ritual because it truly is demonstrated on the right. I mean, this is just a tribe who is trying to put their loved one to rest so they can lay peaceful and eternally. And by disrupting these areas, that makes it very what do I want to say? It is very just disrespectful generally because it affects the person, the site, the tribe, the family members, everyone who is associated with that area. And this also, by destructing these areas, even if it were by an archaeologist who's educated, it is still erasing all like clues to the area. That could be something that the tribe members would like to find out themselves because it technically was theirs. And this erases all of that. And same with a curious person looking at these areas. And I also just wanted to say that it's just an extremely common occurrence. And I kind of just wanted to talk about why it's happening and it's so common. So probably why it's happening is because there's only one federal law that is protecting any site with human remains in the United States, and it's this NAGPRA one that I have listed, and it is basically just saying that any site with human remains or bodies is if it is on a public area and abandoned, that they do not have jurisdiction over the area and they cannot prosecute. So it will go into the state laws. But shown on this figure, all of the states that are in gray do not have any law protecting these sites. So the only sites that would be protected in the gray are private areas. And in the red areas, that's when they have jurisdiction over these public areas. So really all these gray areas are just things where we can improve. So I kind of just wanted to talk about preventative actions. So really all we can do, there's no way to completely halt all damage and destruction that occurs at these sites. But the only way we can really improve things is by educating people, advocating for them, and putting ourselves in their shoes just to understand how it affects their culture. And I wanted to talk about this story that I found online when I was doing research, and it was by a tribal member in New York. She found out that a part of one of her tribe's land, or past previous land, they had some building on it, and she found out that the city was going to use this area to build up an apartment complex, and she was not okay with that. So she was very persistent and passionate, and she actually ended up winning in this situation. And instead of this new apartment complex being built up, she actually got a $900,000 city donation to protect the area and preserve it. So I mean, that's just an example of how we can actually help these sites to be protected. And anyways, that's the rest of my presentation. These are my citations and figure URLs. Thank you.